They called her Amina, but few knew her real name. She wasn't a queen, nor a political figure, nor a woman who sought the spotlight. And yet, she was the one woman Ibrahim Traoré trusted more than anyone else before he became the man who shook the global order. Their story didn't begin in power, it began in silence, under a moonless night in Dori, when both were still students, dreamers, and strangers to history. Amina was the daughter of a local herbalist, raised in the tradition of the Sahel's ancient midwives. She spoke rarely, but when she did, her voice felt like thunder wrapped in calm. Locals said she had the blood of the river, a mysterious gift that let her feel tremors in the land before they came, hear names whispered by the wind. Even Traoré didn't fully understand her, but he never needed to. He just knew she saw what others didn't. And one day, she looked at him and said, "You will become what they fear, but not before they take something from you." He didn't understand. Not then. Their wedding was modest, attended only by family, comrades, and the elderly women who had trained her. She was pregnant a few months later, but something shifted. The prophets of the village, men and women who had once blessed Traoré's rise, grew distant. Some stopped visiting entirely. One night, an elder came to the house trembling and said, "The child she carries will not walk in our time. He will walk ahead of it." No one explained what that meant. No one dared. Then came the day. It was a stormless morning, but the air was thick and wrong. The women in the house said her labor came too fast, too strong. She gripped Traoré's hand with a look he would never forget and whispered, "Do not name him yet. Let the world name him by what he becomes." Moments later, she was gone. The cries of the newborn rang through the house like a trumpet breaking glass. The midwives fell silent. One of them left the room and never came back. Traoré held his son tiny, fierce, eyes wide open, and the room grew still. The child didn't blink. He just stared at his father as if he knew already what he would face. That was the moment something inside Traoré changed. His grief hardened into resolve. And within a year, the captain the West barely noticed became the leader it now fears. They buried Amina under the tamarind tree in her mother's village, without ceremony, just like she had asked. Traoré visits the tree once a year. He never speaks there. He doesn't bring guards, just him and the boy. And each year, the boy, now 6, kneels by the grave and murmurs something no one else can hear. There are whispers that her death was not just tragedy, it was sacrifice, that her spirit never left, that the visions now guiding Traoré come not just from the land, but from her, that the boy she left behind doesn't dream like other children. He sees. He writes numbers in the sand that match military coordinates. He wakes up weeping before an ambush takes place. They say one night, he woke up screaming and told his father not to attend a scheduled summit in Bamako. Hours later, a failed assassination plot was exposed at the venue. And still, Traoré never speaks of Amina. Not in speeches, not in interviews, not even in memoirs. To the world, she doesn't exist. But ask anyone inside the presidential palace who watches over the boy when the storms roll in, who taught him how to listen to silence, and they'll tell you, it was her. They say she died giving birth to a child the prophets feared. But what they don't say, what they never say, is that she may have also given birth to the one soul who will finish what her husband began. Not just the liberation of a nation, but the awakening of a continent. They called him the boy without a name. For years, even inside government records, Traoré's son was listed only by an initial, M. No birth certificate was ever made public, no photo released. His school is a specially constructed compound deep in the Sahel, guarded by 3 concentric rings of elite troops. Not because of what he knows, but because of what he might become. The mystery around the boy grew, especially after leaked audio from a closed-door summit of intelligence chiefs in Brussels was posted online for 20 minutes before vanishing without a trace. In that audio, a voice believed to be from a former NATO analyst said, "The child is not just a threat to regional intelligence structures. He is rewriting the predictive models. Nothing aligns anymore when he's factored in." What were they talking about? Sources close to Russian defense strategists revealed that during a recent closed simulation, the boy aged only 6 was allowed to observe a live satellite feed of border activity in northern Burkina Faso. He stood silently for 30 seconds, then pointed at an empty patch of forest and said, "They're already there." 10 minutes later, a rebel unit was intercepted precisely at that location. The Russians didn't laugh. They didn't question it. They just requested another meeting. But it wasn't the Russians who panicked. It was the West. Within weeks, whispers began spreading through diplomatic cables. Who trained the child? What does he see? And what does Traoré intend to do with him? France's internal security agency DGSI labeled the boy a national destabilization vector. One EU report, classified eyes only, referred to him as a pre-modern anomaly with post-modern implications. And then came the most mysterious leak of all. A high-ranking Western official, anonymous but verified, told a journalist off-record, "We don't care that he's a child. We care that he dreams and then reality bends." Back in Ouagadougou, none of this noise reaches the boy. His days are structured, simple, learning languages, geography, history, meditation, and silence. He doesn't speak often, but when he does, his words are logged, time-stamped, and analyzed by a confidential internal unit known only as Section 4B. He still has no name publicly. But those closest to Traoré know what he whispered at age 5, when a curious colonel once asked him, "What should we call you?" The boy looked up, eyes unwavering, and said, "Call me the last witness." That colonel resigned 2 days later. What Western powers fear isn't that the child might speak. It's that he might already have. That Traoré knows exactly what is coming and is preparing, not with weapons, but with something far older, something buried in bloodlines, prophecy, and silence. Because in the end, no empire fears a gun. But all empires fear a child, when that child sees the end before it arrives. They found it on a quiet morning in early February, scrawled in charcoal on the back of a training slate. A single sentence written in an uneven but deliberate hand by Traoré's 6-year-old son, placed face down beneath his sleeping mat. "When the eagle loses its feathers, the lion shall rise from the dust." At first, the teachers assumed it was part of a reading exercise, but the boy had never been taught those words. The phrase didn't match any poem, scripture, or proverb in any known Sahelian dialect. And more importantly, he never remembered writing it. When asked, he simply looked at them and said, "I don't write while awake." The slate was immediately sent to Section 4B for linguistic and symbolic analysis. Within hours, alarms were raised. Cross-referenced with intelligence gathered from foreign diplomatic chatter and military code languages, the phrase aligned almost verbatim with a symbolic prediction made decades ago by an underground African nationalist movement. The day the eagle bleeds from the sky, the continent will breathe again. The eagle, in all intelligence circles, was unmistakably a symbol for the United States. 3 days later, a classified CIA aircraft crashed over the Red Sea under suspicious circumstances. The aircraft had been involved in surveillance missions over the Sahel. The West claimed mechanical failure. Russian and Burkinabe analysts believed otherwise. "The eagle has lost a feather," whispered Traoré as he read the incident report. But the prophecy didn't end there. A week later, mass protests erupted across West Africa, from Dakar to Abidjan to Accra. Tens of thousands poured into the streets, not chanting slogans of division, but unity. Africa for Africans, no more puppets. The lion is coming. These weren't coordinated, no shared organizer, no centralized funding. And yet, the words from the boy's slate began appearing on banners, graffiti, and whispered prayers. "The lion shall rise from the dust."